Hey y'all, Dr. Jen here. For those who are new to my page, well, I'm a professor, a community advocate, a prison education reform supporter, and an online learning practitioner, and a student success strategist. And in one of the courses I teach, which is a non-traditional student success course, I work with folks who've transferred schools, taken breaks, raised kids, worked full-time, or had to start over later in life. And there's a concept that I recently shared with them, one that I think really hit hard, and I want to share it with you too. Because let's face it, this isn't always just about school, but it's about life too. So I need for you to lean in, listen closely, because what I'm about to say might explain a weight that you've been carrying that was never yours to hold. Are we ready? We keep hearing it everywhere, right? If I did it, so can you. Sounds inspiring, right? I mean, I do that very thing on my page. But let's talk about what that mindset leaves out. There's a name for this phenomenon, and it's called survivorship bias. It's what happens when we only pay attention to the success stories, the ones who made it, the ones who broke through, and we ignore all the people who didn't. Not because they weren't capable, but because life just hit differently. This concept is not just a theory, but it's actually rooted in history. It actually came from World War II. The military was studying planes they returned from combat. They mapped out the bullet holes and said, let's reinforce these areas. But a man named Abraham Wald, who was a mathematician, he stopped them. And he said, you know what? You're only looking at the planes that made it. He told them to reinforce the places that had no bullet holes. Why? Because the planes that got hit there didn't make it back. They were missing from the data because they were dead. And that is survivorship bias, making decisions based on ones who survived and completely forgetting the ones who didn't make it through. Survivorship bias is a logical error where we focus only on the visible successes and ignore the invisible failures. It happens when we draw conclusions from the people who made it and assume their path represents everyone's reality. And we know that's not true. Now, apply that to education, to business, to your life. You see, a single mom who graduated with honors, a first-gen student who earned a PhD, EDD, or MD, a rags to riches business owner who blew up on TikTok. And the message becomes, if they did it, so can I. And then the second thought creeps in, right? So if I can't, something must be wrong with me, right? But here's the trap. You're only seeing the person who survived the struggle and made it to the spotlight. What you don't see is the thousands who tried and didn't finish, the ones who had to drop out to care for their family, the ones crushed by student loans, depression, burnout, or systematic barriers, or the folks who did everything right, but life still said, no, not yet. Survivorship bias says, we'll celebrate the survivors, but erase the rest. Now, how is this internalized, you ask? Survivorship bias is why you think you're lazy when you're really extremely exhausted, because you're comparing your energy to someone who had a different starting line and often more resources to get through the race. It's why you think you're unmotivated when you're really unsupported, because success stories usually skip the details, like the nanny, the therapist, the scholarship, the inherited health, wealth, or connections. See, you think you're failing, but really, you were never set up the same. It's why you compare yourself to someone who made it through the fire without realizing they had gear you never got handed. Some people have fireproof suits. You're out here barefoot with a wet dish rag and a prayer, and yet you're still walking. So let me be in transparently clear. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just climbing a mountain no one ever mapped out for you. So stop letting highlight reels shame your journey. Start honoring your own data, because the fact that you're still here, that's not failure. That's survival, and that matters. Share this with someone who needs to hear this today.